Hey, welcome back to the eBook Revolution. Hey, I've had a bit of a hiatus, and here we are up to episode 18, I do believe. But I've had a little bit of a break from it, just trying to rejig the whole Madhouse Media thing. And if you've had a look at our website, if you pop down there, you'll see it's all brand new and shiny. I've got a brand new WordPress thing going on there for www.madhousemedia.com.au. And what might interest you, and I hope it interests you, if you pop on down there, we've got a brand new free email course called Author's Blueprint 3, and you can just pop your email address in there and then get immediate access to it. And what happens is you'll get a little email sent to you every few days. It just gives you some tips and self-publishing tricks that you can use to get your ass into gear and get your book published. And that's over there at madhousemedia.com.au, because we're in Australia, mate, if you're listening from somewhere else in the world. Well, as I say, I've had a bit of a break. I'm a bit refreshed. I've been to Vietnam. What an extraordinary country, extraordinary people, and can't recommend it enough. I did bump into a few Australians there, and a few Americans, and some Germans and Russians as well, and of course lots of Vietnamese. But I'm not here to talk about my holiday, as fun as it was. I'm here to say I'm back and explain my absence a bit. If you've been missing the eBook Revolution podcast, well, this is really the first time I've got behind the microphone for quite a while. But I think big things are planned as we go forward, so they say, as we take this Madhouse thing to the next level, as they say. And I thought this is a pretty good time to take stock of what the eBook Revolution podcast is all about. If you're a regular listener, and if you've stuck through the whole thing, you know we talk about publishing, self-publishing, and I talk to some great writers about how they've got their stuff together and embarked on the self-publishing trip. So what I thought I'd do with this episode is just recap some of the great interviews that are there in the archives of the eBook Revolution. If this is the first time you've popped into the show, it'll give you an idea of what to expect. And let's just hop into it. I mean, I've had some great guests the last 12 months, and three that stand out particularly for me is Bill O'Hanlon, Joanna Penn, and Manny Wolfe. And each of those interviews was great fun. And with Bill, I just want to play you a bit of an excerpt from my interview with Bill O'Hanlon. Bill's written 100,000 books. Not exactly, I think it's 42 or something, but he is a prolific author and a great guy. And he was lucky enough to appear on Oprah to sell one of his books and talk to Oprah about the book. And I asked him about that very thing. What's it like getting on Oprah? What happens? What are the secrets? How mysterious is it? You might be surprised with the answer he gave me.
It was a little weird, but she hadn't read the book.
That's fine.
But she had a great staff, and the producer had read it and prepared everything for her, and she had it on the teleprompter. And she's so smart that by the end of, at the beginning of the show, she didn't quite get the concept. By the end of the show, she was like an expert in it, and better than I was at coaching people. She had some people in the audience kind of use the approach. And that was the first thing. The second thing was that the book was published by a major New York publisher called HarperCollins. First, it was published by William Morrow, which was bought by your countryman, who bought a bunch of book publishing, Rupert Murdoch.
Oh, yes.
And so I transferred to HarperCollins before the book came out, actually, because Rupert Murdoch had bought it. And I said to I was really excited about this book, and I'd written a bunch of books for therapists, but this was the second one I'd written for the general public. And I thought, well, this has a chance to be on Oprah. And that was the brass ring. Everybody wants to be on there when it was the big show. And I said to the publicist at HarperCollins, well, what will it take to get me on? She said, there's no way you're going to get on Oprah, Bill. Just don't even dream about it. She said, we give numbers to authors, who want to get on Oprah. Call this number. It's 1-800-prayer line. So you're not going to get on there. And I said, no, really, I will do whatever I need to do. She goes, no, if you bug Oprah's people, they'll never take one of our books again. You just have to back off. I said, well, you're going to do anything? She says, well, yes, we'll send them the book and we'll send them your, publicity kit. And that was it. And I was like, okay, don't. And, I told that to my agent, and my agent called me and said, call the publicist at HarperCollins. She called me. She's trying to get a hold of you. She called me on my cell phone, but they only had my house phone, and I wasn't answering that. I was deep in the middle of writing something, and she said, call this publicist. And I called the publicist, and she said, one of Oprah's producers called me. She's only there for 5 more minutes. Call her now. They want you on the show. So she said, but I just have to warn you, they sometimes want people on the show, and then they interview them, and then they change their mind, or something gets knocked off the schedule. So don't get your hopes up too much. So I called the producer, and we had a really nice chat, and she said, yeah, I want to do this. And so that, so I got to know her, and after I was on the show, I said, can you tell me how I got on the show? Because my publicist said it wasn't going to happen. It was very unlikely. And she said, Oprah got mad because we were trying to change people's lives, and instead of changing people's lives, we give them free, limo to drive their kids to soccer, drive their kids to school, a maid service to do the laundry and clean the house. And when we go and visit them a week later, or 2 weeks later, or a month later, or 2 months later, they were depressed because they were no longer had the chauffeur and the maid service, and their 15 minutes of fame was gone. So Oprah said, we're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to give people gifts. We're going to make each show about changing one thing in the viewer's life. And my book had just arrived, and the producer held it up across the table to Oprah, and it was called Do One Thing Different. She said, that's what I'm talking about.
Perfect.
So, and that was not my title for the book initially. So it was total kismet, total fate that I was on there, and it made a big difference. Yes.
So yeah, that's Bill O'Hanlon, and if you go back to madhousemedia.com.au, you can listen to the entire interview with Bill, and it just goes to show that sometimes things are just, as Bill says, kismet. you can't plan for how things are going to work out for you. One of my other favourite guests, of course, was Joanna Penn, a prolific author of the Arcane series of thrillers. She's based in the UK, and she's also quite renowned as one of the top authorpreneurs in the world, and her website, thecreativepen.com, is often ranked in the top 10 writing websites in the world. So she wears 2 hats. She writes these incredibly popular, best-selling supernatural thrillers, and she teaches people about writing and publishing. I asked Joanna about her approach to researching these books, and she gave some great tips for a new writer. Have a listen. Well, certainly never bored reading your wonderful books. I've just started on the first one, and I can't put it down. And I will.
Thank you.
I will be progressing to the rest of the series. The books are beautifully researched. What's your approach to research, and what advice would you give to a new writer setting out on this path?
Yeah, so I must say that you don't have to go to all these places to write your books. For me, I tend to start, obviously if you're starting with a series, you do need series characters and a kind of a bigger idea. So the kind of secret agency idea is something that a lot of people use, and as long as you have original characters and they're doing original things, then that's quite a good way to do fiction. So I then essentially I will, the idea that I'm fixating on, say Destroyer of Worlds again, which is about India. It started off with this statue of Shiva Nataraja that I saw in a museum in Delhi, and Shiva Nataraja has the dance, the dance of time, and when Shiva dances, the universe is destroyed and then recreated. So this was the idea that Shiva would be the start. So literally I will just Google into these different things. So I would start with, Googling Shiva Nataraja. What does that actually mean? What does the worship of Shiva mean? What are the places that are sacred to the worship of Shiva? And then sort of from there, just follow my curiosity down through the internet. So you can definitely, I can't believe people used to write novels from the library because it just seems crazy. Whereas now you can just fall down these rabbit holes. I watch a lot of documentaries. So I watched Ganges, which is a really great documentary series, obviously about the Ganges, and a lot of documentaries about India. And I normally read, 4 or 5 books as well about the history of places, because all my thrillers are sort of 95% based on reality. And then I just twist it so it's not necessarily real. Obviously, it's fiction. But I twist it at the kind of last moment. So I want it to be as believable as possible. So I use Scrivener software, which is fantastic. And I just keep all my research in Scrivener. And then what I usually do will also be, sort of have some idea around the beginning and the end. So I did know that my opening would be in London, where the Arcane base is, and that there would be a bomb dropped on Trafalgar Square, and that something would be stolen from the vaults. And that is the statue. Now, that's not a spoiler. That's in the first scene. But then also what was so interesting is I discovered the quote that Oppenheimer said at the first US atomic bomb test, which is, "I am become death, destroyer of worlds." Yeah. And he was actually referring to that Shiva Nataraja sculpture. And there's also one of these sculptures at CERN, which is where, they're looking into the Big Bang. So when you look at these things all together, it's very easy to kind of wind a conspiracy theory around that type of thing. So again, it's sort of, the main thing is following your curiosity, then going down the rabbit hole on the internet, and then bringing it back to your story and using a tool like Scrivener to structure your research into something coherent. And the last thing I would say is, it's really important not to get lost in research. So some people will say, I've been researching for 2 years. That's silly. The best thing to do is to research enough to get started, and then research what else you need along the way. Otherwise, you might as well just write a non-fiction book about whatever else you're researching. And of course, I write non-fiction as well, but there's slightly less imagination involved in that.
That, of course, was the great Joanna Penn. Pop over to her website at www.creativepenn.com. She's got so much resources there for the new writer. Everything from writing fiction to non-fiction and self-publishing. It is just an incredible resource, and that's why it's, for many, many years, it's been voted one of the top 10 websites for writers out there on the interwebs. And pop over there and you'll see exactly why. And while you're at it, pop over to our website, www.madhousemedia.com.au, which is a website for Madhouse Media Publishing, the business that puts all this together for you. And you can hear Joanna's entire podcast interview. One of the plans we've got coming up is putting a separate website and Facebook page together for the podcast, but at the moment it's sitting under Madhouse Media Publishing, which it probably should, but that's a long story. That's Joanna Penn, a fantastic guest, an inspiring guest, and she just proves that you can wear two hats. She is a prolific fiction author, and she's had great success with these very dark thrillers she writes. I think it's up to number 10. Extraordinary. And she's a prolific non-fiction writer, writing on the art of self-publishing and being an authorpreneur, the business of writing, which of course is what this podcast is all about. And as I was saying earlier, if you've just come lately to the ebook revolution, that's what we're all about. That's what we're talking about. We're talking to writers, and I talk about the business of writing and try to talk to writers who have had great success self-publishing and try to tease out of them what some of the secrets are. So it's Joanna Penn, one of my favourite guests of the year. And another guest that was a lot of fun to talk to was Mr. Manny Wolfe, who was a motivational speaker and coach, and he was on the show to talk about his first book, I believe, which was called The Tao of the Unbreakable Man, and that's available on Amazon and all good bookstores. Manny's had an incredible life story. Pop over to madhousemedia.com.au and you can listen to the entire podcast. But I asked Manny what the myth of success is, and his answer might surprise you. That's interesting to me. What would you say is the biggest myth of success that holds people back from succeeding?
Wow, that's a great question. The biggest myth of success. Let me give you a few of the ones that top the heap. One is the idea that is very popular here in the States of the self-made man and manifest destiny. And it's just a misinterpretation of those ideas, because the real self-made men, let's look at the Carnegies, the Fords, the Firestones. These men all understood that everything happens through relationships with other people, right? And yet history tells us that they're self-made men. So if you want good relationships with other people, your communication skills must be good, because the level of your relationships cannot surpass the level of your ability to communicate. So one of them is this idea that we can do it all ourselves. That's one of the biggest obstacles to success I know. One of the other ones is making the very common mistake of believing that pesky little voice in your head that only exists to hold you back. Some call it the inner critic. I call it the inner dialogue, the negative self-talk, whatever you want to call it.
I call it the inner arsehole.
Yeah. Again, whatever you want to call it. Be aware of that thing and understand that Elon Musk has it too. Richard Branson has it too, right? Everyone deals with it unless, oddly enough, unless you're a sociopath. So, pretty much all of us deal with it. But anyone who has empathy, the ability to feel empathy, is going to have that critical inner voice. So those are two of the big ones, and then the idea that overnight successes are really exist. An overnight success is the equivalent of an iceberg emerging from the water and you seeing the tip of it.
And that was a great Manny Wolfe, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to this recap of the ebook revolution. And as I said earlier on at the head of this, if you're a regular listener, I'm back, baby. I've been gone. I've been a bit down. I've been unsure what to do with this whole podcasting thing, but I've become re-inspired, and I've got some great directions that we're going to go with this, and we're going to take the bull by the horns and get to the bottom of this self-publishing thing. And I just want to help you on your journey any way I can. And if you're new to ebook revolution, please sign up and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss one, because there's going to be a lot coming up. Make them a bit more regular than they've been in the past. I I've been a bit intemperate, to put it mildly. But that's it for the ebook revolution. We're brought to you by eBook in a Box, which is a system that will help you get your ebook written and published. Have you ever looked at all the confusing Google advice that's out there in the world about how to publish a book? And well, I was a bit frustrated with that as well. So I put together a course which is called eBook in a Box, and it will help you get your ebook written and published. It's a step-by-step video coaching guide that walks you through exactly how to write and publish a professionally packaged ebook. Now, normally this is $97 for lifetime access, but for listeners of the eBook Revolution podcast, you can get lifetime access for eBook in a Box, 50% off. Just use the voucher EBR when you check out. EBR for eBook Revolution, and get 50% off eBook in a Box. And that's a big discount off the $97. So, yeah, imagine your first ebook being sold. Certainly a feeling I'll never get sick of, for both myself and my clients at Madhouse Media. It's a feeling I want you to have as well. So get eBook in a Box. Get your ebook written and published at last with this step-by-step video coaching guide that walks you through exactly how to write and publish a professionally packaged ebook. That's exclusive to Madhouse Media. Just pop over on the website and you'll find all the information there. And don't forget the discount, 50% off for eBook Revolution podcast listeners. And I love you all. Thanks for listening. Great to be back. I hope you enjoyed the recap of the show, because now we're going to hit the ground running. There's going to be a lot more of them. That's it for me. I'm Geoff Hughes from Madhouse Media. Thanks for listening.